You said the justices are protected, but there was an attempt on Justice Kavanaugh's life.
It's protected. So this issue is not about the justice. It's about staff and the rest. The justices are protected.
Really? Then why is there a bill for their protection stalled in the House? Here to talk about it is Mollie Hemingway, editor-in-chief of The Federalist and author of Rigged, How the Media, Big Tech, and the Democrats Seized Our Elections, and Jason Chaffetz, former Utah member of Congress, Fox News contributor, and a man with a really good-looking tie. All right, Jason, let's talk about that because, you know, the Senate passed the bill to say, you know what, our justices need more security, especially when they have protests in front of their house. We saw what happened at Kavanaugh's house with the gunman. But here Nancy Pelosi says, no, I don't think so. I'm not going to pass it off the House floor.
It's so easy. She can bring up the bill literally the same day. It's a funding issue. And don't tell me about some clerk or some other person. They could have done this months ago. The threat has been there. It's been real. And now you have a gunman. And guess what? The U.S. Marshals, they need more resources in order to provide the security that's necessary.
You know, Molly, it's interesting, as Jason and I served in the House, but she says we need security for the clerks. That's like saying you need security for my chief of staff or Kevin McCarthy's chief of staff. You don't have security for the chief of staff. You have security for the member or you have security for the justice, but she's clinging on to this thing like we need money for the clerks. No one knows who the clerks are, and they serve at the pleasure of the justice.
And even more than that, we have had a failed assassination attempt on a justice's life. You have daily protests taking place at the homes of these Republican-appointed Supreme Court justices. They're going after the kids' schools. They're going after their family. And even more than the funding issue, it would be really good to hear the Speaker of the House actually condemn this political violence, particularly since she's claiming that she cares so much about political violence, you know, with January 6 hearings and whatnot, to not be doing more to stop this. People are, you know, the same day that Justice Kavanaugh, there was this failed assassination attempt on him and his family, you had protesters at his house that night. I mean, this is something that should be just roundly condemned. And because of Senator Schumer actually explicitly calling for attacks on Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Gorsuch, which he did in March of 2020, it would be great to have everybody on the same page. And instead, you know, we have everyone kind of poo-pooing it.
You know, I wouldn't want to be in Congress and be Nancy Pelosi, who, one, you're right, doesn't condemn the attacks, but then, two, doesn't provide the additional funding to make sure our justices are safe. God forbid something happens. But I want to switch gears. We've learned that more than 168,000 deleted files have been recovered from Hunter Biden's laptop. So, listen, I'm going to go to you first, Molly. This seems like the Hunter Biden story never stops. More information is going to continue to come out. What do you think we're going to see?
Well, and it's always good to remember, the Hunter Biden story is really just about the Biden family business in general. That involves not just Hunter Biden, but James Biden, the brother of Joe Biden, and other family members who are given money by foreign oligarchs, the Chinese Communist Party, other entities, in exchange for things that we're not quite sure what they're getting. We know there's this business where you give people money who you normally wouldn't. Hunter Biden is not someone you would normally hand over huge sums of cash to.
He's a drug addict, of course not.
But he has received those, so we need to know more about what's happening in terms of U.S. policy. Is this why Joe Biden has such a soft policy toward China? And yes, there have been some pretty insane stories coming out of this laptop. And again, once again, corporate media are kind of downplaying, ignoring, or suppressing that story, just as they did in the 2020 election.
Yeah, you don't hear anything about it. And Jason, it's not illegal to have Hunter Biden, you know, lobby people. That's just because he's the son of Joe Biden. The problem, though, is if Joe Biden is actually involved in the scheme to help Hunter Biden get work and give Hunter Biden access to the vice presidency, and then he gets 10%, as Bob Alinsky indicated, Joe Biden was getting 10% of the money brought in by his son, Hunter Biden.
While he was vice president of the United States, while he held the keys to the kingdom when he traveled overseas. I would like some basic questions answered. Why is it that Hunter Biden went with his business partner on Air Force Two to Mexico to try to seal a deal? I mean, the flow of the money, by the millions of dollars, the direct texts that now everybody's admitting this laptop is real. Here we got 100,000+ files. Who knows what's going to be in there? I mean, we know there are probably going to be more pictures, unflattering as they might be, and who knows what other data. But where's the intellectual curiosity by the national media? It's totally absent.
You know, we want a president, we want a vice president who looks out for our interests, the American people's interests. I don't want them to look out for their family interests and their family wealth. That doesn't serve our country well. Meanwhile, last night, President Biden joked about sending his political opponents to jail, and it's basically a Monopoly reference. But you know what? I'm not so sure, Molly. It seems like Democrats want to send a lot of Republicans to jail, and it wasn't a joke.
Yeah, Joe Biden last night on this late night program joking about sending his political opponents to jail, joking about or saying that there would be a revolution in this country. Again, we're getting such mixed messages from Democrats who do control the presidency and the Senate and the House, where they claim that they're opposed to political violence and insurrections, and they claim they support rule of law. And instead, Joe Biden's Department of Justice really is acting like his personal arm that imprisons his political opponents. That's what they do.
Actually, let's play the clip. Let's see what Joe Biden had to say.
I understand that argument, but also it's like you're playing Monopoly with somebody who, won't pass go and won't follow any of the rules. And how do you ever make any progress if they're not following the rules?
Well, you got to send them to jail, There's that little box in there.
Directly to jail?
Go directly to jail.
Jason, we look at how the FBI has behaved, whether it was in regard to Donald Trump or with regard to the political prosecutions, the DOJ. It doesn't seem like a joke.
It's not a joke, because there's not one single policy that the president can point to that is actually making the country better. Immigration, inflation, foreign policy. I mean, can the president, he can't point to anything. And here he has not done a serious interview, and still hasn't, I would argue, done a serious interview in nearly 4 months as the president of the United States. And their message is, well, we're getting bad press and we're getting bad messaging. But the president speaking more and Kamala Harris totally, working on her next word salad is not changing the trajectory of the policy of the Biden-Harris administration.
No, it's not. And by the way, I hope the next Republican president looks at the FBI, looks at the DOJ and says, we have to clean house here. We have to make sure that everybody has faith in the DOJ and the FBI. Molly?
It is the biggest threat to the country that we have two standards of justice, one for friends of the regime and one for opponents. It is a threat to the republic, and it has to be cleaned up.
100% it is, and we all have to have faith in it. Listen, Molly and Jason, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.